Yeah, yes.
This was a long time ago also.
Right.
I think we had, just after we won the championship, you know, got to meet the president. We got to go to the White House.
Well, first of all, anytime you're in a picture with Ronald Reagan, you got to be old. You got to be old if you're in a picture with Ronald Reagan.
I'm already old, you know.
Right.
But you know,
and Ronald Reagan looked young in the picture, don't
very young. That's how it was back in those days. You know, this was the Stone Ages.
No doubt, for sure. You look like a dinosaur in that picture.
Here comes Ewing. And years from now, we'll be talking about Ewing and his Hoya team. Another block by Ewing.
Patrick Ewing has one of the great careers in the history of college basketball.
Mourning was one of the premier defenders in the league.
They are fused at the hip. You know, they're blood brothers.
Now, they might have been great friends, but in the gym, they were not friends.
These two teams, no matter what stage they were in the playoffs, they were ready to rumble.
When they break beats up to make us jump and trust in that rush, that unexplainable need in my
soul. Patrick Ewing was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and spent the first 12 years of his life on the Caribbean island. Basketball was hardly his first love.
When I played soccer and cricket growing up, you know, growing up I wanted to be the next Pele.
In 1975, he moved 2,000 miles north to Cambridge, Massachusetts. The weather was significantly colder, and he was seized by a new sport, basketball.
Well, I mean, none of it came easy. Dribbling the ball was with my feet. And now I have to learn how to bounce the ball, how to shoot the ball, and play defense, all that stuff. So, you know, it was all new. People always thought I was older than I was, and, you know, they used to laugh and joke at me. Because, you know, at that age, you're clumsy, or, you know, I'm just learning my body. It was hard.
Well, I saw Patrick play when he was in the 10th grade. I went to see another kid in Boston Garden. Red Auerbach was sitting with me. We were talking, and I couldn't keep my eyes off of him. You know, he'd block a shot, and he'd be down at the other end ready to tip the ball in, and that got me very excited about him.
You know, after the game, I see Red Auerbach walking towards our locker room, and he had this tall individual with him, and it was Coach Thompson.
And I said to my assistant, "Get me that kid, and we'll win the national championship." I was talking to his mom, and I was telling about all the attributes of the school and how great I was and the whole thing, and she just stared at me, and I'm saying, damn, I want some nonverbal cues. After I got finished, she said, funny man, and I'm saying, oh, shucks, what does that mean? You know, scared me to death.
I would just sit there mesmerized by a lot of, you know, the way that he carried himself and the way, you know, just a lot of the stories that he told. I just knew that, you know, he could teach me.
I like to say that Patrick came here because we were good, not to make us good. He just made us out of sight.
After considering all the fact, my decision is to attend Georgetown University.
I was covering Georgetown for the Washington Post in 1980-81, and Georgetown wasn't famous yet. You know, nobody outside of Washington really knew Georgetown. As a matter of fact, if you asked them to identify Georgetown on a map and where it was, I think 80% of the basketball public, they couldn't have done it.
When I saw him play in his very first exhibition game, I said, oh my God, the warrior in him came out.
This young guy will be the best center in college basketball.
Patrick Ewing made Georgetown the national force.
I would not want to play Patrick Ewing for an evening by myself.
Ewing's mix of ferocity and finesse made an immediate impact.
That young man runs the court at 7 feet tall, better than anybody in the world, practically.
His rising profile also made him a vulnerable target for a wave of ugly racism.
It's interesting to me what Patrick Ewing went through that there would be no tolerance for today. There was an actual sign in an arena that said, Patrick Ewing can't read this. and it was allowed to happen with no repercussions.
There were moments when people didn't think he was smart. That was devastating to Patrick because he was the farthest thing from that.
Why would you, as an athletic director, a president of a college, a member of a faculty, sit and watch a young person have to encounter some of the things that he had to encounter and not say anything? I just thought that that was just ridiculous.
So we're talking about serious stuff, comparisons to animals, apes, most notably.
I was the big kid on the block. I was the best talent in the gym. So people would try a lot of different things to get me out of the game, hit me, smack me, you know, do anything necessary.
A lot of that early baggage, it really made him hold back because he didn't want to give the public anything.
So everything that they said and jeered at me, that's the more I took it out on their team by, you know, dominating them.
To me, Georgetown invented modern college basketball defense. And you can say nobody played it as physically, nobody played it with a hint of violence like Georgetown. Those would be fair observations, I believe.
That element of just fight the power. Whatever that was in front of you, deny it and overcome it. So that Georgetown kind of gave you that feeling that, you know, it was indestructible.
And so now you had essentially an all-black team that was unapologetic, that was coached by a very demanding and visible and loud 6'10" black coach saying, get inside of them and don't let them move. And if you have to deliver an elbow to do it, that's okay too.
These, you know, huge arenas and they're cold. And, you know, back then I hated the cold. My Jamaican blood was still thin.
Ewing wearing the T-shirt for whatever reason, we do not know today. Did not the last time we saw him.
Lori Michael, our trainer, was the person who put the T-shirt on it because she was trying to hold the heat in.
I started wearing the T-shirt under my shirt, and you know, I think it was the first time I did it was in the Carrier Dome.
You hadn't seen anybody do it. He changed the whole nation. Every little boy that I saw at the game had a T-shirt on.
You know, it's funny, people always, when they think about the T-shirt, they always, you know, think of me. But, you know, I tell them, you know, people did it before me. You know, I just made it popular.
In his freshman year, Ewing led Georgetown to its best season ever. And on March 29th, 1982, his Hoyas took on North Carolina for the NCAA championship.
First time in the finals, first time on the national stage.
Massachusetts, Ewing.
You know, I visited in North Carolina, got to meet Michael on my visit to North Carolina. James Worthy was the person who took me around. We were all ready for that game, and it's win by, you know, any means necessary.
In this tournament, extremely well, 83% to be exact, and that'll be goaltending. But I tell you, Ewing is up around that cylinder.
I did tell him that everything that came to the basket, go after it. And don't be concerned about whether it was goaltending or not, because when you start to think about Worthy, Michael Jordan, Sam, and those guys they had on the team, they don't miss layups.
Ewing got a piece of it. Perkins, Ewing again.
You know, and everybody thought so much about, well, why is he goaltending? Well, what's the difference whether he puts an impression on somebody's mind that I can get it as opposed to them going in and making a layup?
And going back looking at that tape, I'd say maybe 2 of them might have been goaltending, but the rest of them wasn't. I just think that America wanted to see Dean Smith win his first.
The time, 18. Shot, Jordan, Michael Jordan, 14 seconds. Look for Sleepy Floyd. Look, oh, he's on to the right hand. Tell you, the guy you're gonna feel bad for is Fred Brown.
He was not yet a champion, but Ewing's performance in the title game made him a star. With the young center leading the way, Georgetown and its intimidating style of play became a national phenomenon.
Seattle, Washington, site of college basketball's greatest show, the 1984 NCAA Final Four.
In 1984, Ewing led Georgetown to its first championship, defeating Akeem Olajuwon and the University of Houston. The victory made John Thompson the first African-American coach to win an NCAA basketball title.
Naturally, we wanted to win. I remember going into the game and Coach Thompson being very nervous. I could always tell when he was nervous. So, you know, I went to him right before the game and put my arm around him. I'm like, Coach, we got this.
Patrick could have been a selfish ass and been the kind of person who only thought about himself. You know, physically, emotionally, and verbally, he always thought about his team.
By the spring of 1985, Ewing had won an NCAA championship, an Olympic gold medal, and was being hailed as the greatest NBA prospect since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. All signs pointed to him finishing at Georgetown with another NCAA crown.
These two teams have played each other twice this year. Villanova led both times at the half, but then Patrick Ewing and the Hoyas pulled it out.
Certainly, we wanted to win. We thought we should have won, and I really thought that was the best team that I had.
That field goal shooting percentage is unbelievable by Villanova.
Your opponent plays the perfect game and you lose by 2. Georgetown very well could have 3 national championships to its credit, not just 1.
Oh, it hurts. I still can't watch that game.
I remember the class in which they lost with. There's a lot of people that win well. Georgetown lost well, you know, that night.
He was clearly the best player in college basketball, dominant. You know, the feeling was that any team he went to would become an instant championship contender.
The 7 numbers behind me represent the first 7 positions in the draft.
The Knicks didn't have the worst record. They would not have gotten a chance to pick him under the old rules, but now we have the new lottery. And so there was always this feeling that even before the lottery happened that Patrick Ewing is going to end up a Knick. There's just no way that the NBA is going to let him go elsewhere.
The 6th pick goes to the Sacramento Kings, to the Seattle Supersonics, to the Los Angeles Clippers.
When it came down to New York and Indiana, I'm like, please let it be New York. Nothing against Indiana.
The 2nd pick in the 1985 NBA draft goes to the Indiana Pacers.
Basketball is back in New York City, my friends.
We know differently, and here's David Stern with the announcement.
First pick, select Patrick Ewing.
When he came onto the scene, it was like things are going to change now. There are championships that are going to come.
Not only was he a franchise center, he'd been to 3 Final Fours, he won the national championship, and he was literally christened as St. Patrick. He was going to be the savior of the Knicks.
Well, the New York fans, John Thompson, are very excited about Patrick Ewing. He's theirs now.
Hold up now, hold up. We talking about the Stone Age now. What's up with this picture?
And I had them shorts on.
Yeah, what's up with those Converse?
Yeah. Oh man, they were beat up too. Like I cut grass in these.
But hold up, we talking about shorts though. What's up with those?
Hey, you know what? Aerodynamic back then. No man, but this was a lot of fun. This brings back memories. My love was football, but my dad just saw me much taller than everybody else, and he put me in this rec league, and you know, it was just a matter of me just running around out there and, you know, playing with other kids. Like many family situations, you know, my mother and father, you know, the marriage didn't last too long. I knew that, you know, just based on how I felt as a child, that the path that I was going down with my family was something I didn't want to be a part of anymore. I fell into the hands of the foster care system and ended up in the hands of this amazing family, the Threet family. Fannie Threet, you know, she lived to be 94 years old. She fostered 49 kids in her lifetime. You know, amazing woman, you know, taught me about, you know, how to be a man.
With more stability at home, Mourning flourished on the basketball court. And the summer before his senior year of high school, he was widely coveted as the #1 player in America.
One player was expected to stand out too. Indian River High School 6'10" center forward Alonzo Mourning of Chesapeake, Virginia.
I really haven't made up my mind what I'm going to sign, but I'm considering some of everybody on my list, and it's going to be fun in the long run.
You know, you had all these great players, you know, Sean Kemp and Billy Owens, Christian Laettner, and I mean, the list goes on. The one camp that we all congregated was the Nike All-American ABCD camp.
Coach Thompson gave me a call. It's like, there's this kid that we wanna recruiting. You know, he loves you.
I just happened to call him since we were in New Jersey and say, hey, would you like to have lunch? Would you like to come by to see old coach?
We drove up to Princeton, and I get to the gym, and I see him down there stretching on the floor. I was like, Coach, which one?
Patrick walked in the gym, and you could have heard a pin drop.
I'm sitting on the floor right before camp started, and I look up, and Patrick Ewing walks over, and he extends his arm, and he says, what's up?
I just remember him looking up at me like,
Alonzo's eyes got bigger than saucers, you know, and looking at him, I knew that Patrick was one of his heroes.
Obviously, I think Coach had a lot to do with that, you know. That was his strategy, and it worked.
I am pleased to announce today that I have chosen Georgetown University.
Alonzo fit the Georgetown mold, if there was one by then, and by the late 80s, there was one. I was there for Alonzo Mourning's first college game. He was wearing Patrick Ewing's number. And Big John, I'll never forget this, said, we retire memories, not jerseys.
Alonzo always looked like he was in mid-flex. Patrick was much more laid back in his everyday demeanor. Zoe always seemed like he had a clenched jaw, that he was always ready to go at somebody. He just walked around wound.
There were times when I would see him grab a rebound and smack it with his other hand so hard that, you know, you would think that the ball was going to bust. Everything was 100% intensity.
He came with that fire, so did Patrick come with that fire. Alonzo didn't win what Patrick had won, but they were far from not being successful. I think we won a few Big East championships, and that wasn't too shabby.
I'm shooting a jumper in this picture, okay? I was forbidden to shoot jumpers at Georgetown. We both were back then. Big John, son, what the hell are you doing shooting a jump shot? I need you in the post.
Inside out.
I need a bull, not a butterfly.
Patrick came back during the summer. You know what I mean? It's no off season for a professional player. So they had to have some place to play, and Patrick was family. You know, he would always be around here.
These workouts, like everything at Georgetown, were closed. I was taken by the hand and sneaked into a couple of workouts.
It's something that I'm not sure will ever be replicated. We have Hall of Fame centers working out against each other every day and making each other better.
He enjoyed it because he got something out of the workouts every summer. He knew that he could go in the summertime and get ready for the upcoming season.
You would have thought they were fighting each other. I'd stick my head out the office and look when I heard the commotion of them arguing and fussing about whose ball it was and you fouled me and, you know, that kind of thing.
He might have dunked on me, or I dunked on him, or he blocked my shot, and then when we start playing, going up and down the floor, we're just trying to dominate each other.
There were two guys who had the same sort of passion level for the game, and it certainly made Alonzo Mourning better.
Some of the things they say to one another, we couldn't put on this film. I can tell you that right now.
We had some fierce battles. You know, I still feel some of the elbows and the...
Likewise. I think I still got some of the scars. We got a lot out of it because we played against one of the best centers to ever play in the league, you know, so it helped us develop as players as well. That's why I think the transition to the league was so smooth for us, because we prepared against you every summer.
The second pick in the 1992 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Alonzo Mourning from Georgetown University.
Zoe met the NBA with blunt force, leading the Hornets to the playoffs in his first 2 seasons. In New York, however, Ewing seemed stuck in neutral, bedeviled by injuries and instability. In his first 5 seasons, Ewing played for 5 different coaches.
We are nowhere closer to reaching my dream, which is to win an NBA title, and I definitely contemplated leaving.
The New York Knicks are very proud to announce the appointment of Pat Riley as head coach of the New York Knicks.
I didn't know if we were going to have Patrick because he was a free agent that year. And then he ended up signing later in the summer for 5 years. And from that point on, I knew that I had a team. And the personality of that team is going to be reflective of Patrick Ewing. This was a warrior shot-blocking player who had a smooth turnaround jumper, and he approached it like a bull going against the matador. That was Patrick.
Riley remade the Knicks into bruising, brawling contenders. But they could never beat Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls and fell short in their only NBA Finals appearance, losing in 7 games to Houston in 1994.
We had some terrific years. And again, just not quite good enough.
Down to 2, Ewing, not over the head, and it's all over. The Indiana Pacers have defeated the New York Knicks.
So Pat Riley packed up his Armani suits and he went to Miami, which at the time was barely a team.
It's my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce you to the new president and head coach of the Miami Heat, Pat Riley. Pat.
I was surprised. I mean, I didn't even know he was leaving. I was in Boston, and I'm calling there. I'm like, what? What the? When did this happen? You know, how come I'm just finding out? I'm got to find out about it on the TV. You know, I was upset. I was disappointed.
That was probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life. The way that I exited, I could have exited with a lot more class. You do what you have to do in this league, you know, and so I did what I felt that I had to do, and I moved on.
The coach was warmly embraced as a basketball savior in Miami. Meanwhile, Patrick and Alonzo's friendship matured and expanded, even as they confronted each other as NBA rivals.
As they played against one another, as they got to know each other, as they competed against one another, I think Alonzo's respectfully looking up to Patrick as being his senior.
We had this brotherly type of relationship, and, you know, he came to Charlotte, we went out to dinner. I came to New York, we went out to dinner.
They knew how to separate business and friendship, and nothing was going to divide them.
In the fall of 1995, Mourning was in a contract dispute with the Charlotte Hornets, and suddenly on the market. With his future in the air, Alonzo turned to Patrick for advice.
There were a lot of teams out there. Patrick was one of those guys. You know, I asked for some advice, some honest advice.
And then he asked me, what's my opinion of Miami or Charlotte? And I said to him, you have Miami, you have Charlotte. You got Miami, you have Charlotte. Take your ass to Miami.
I thank him a lot for helping me make that decision because it wasn't easy at all. You know, he knew what was best for me.
With Mourning in Miami, Riley went about building a South Florida version of the Knicks. He even hired another Van Gundy to be his assistant coach and installed a familiar playbook.
The same calls, the same plays. We're running the same thing. We're mirror images of each other.
The Knicks and the Heat did not have a rivalry that was forged out of competition. It was simply forged out of me leaving New York and coming to Miami.
I firmly believe that Pat Riley knew exactly what he was doing when he picked Miami. Not only were they going to give him the title of president, which is what he coveted, they were going to give him a team that could sit there and kick the Knicks in the teeth all the time, and that's exactly what he did.
We stepped in between those lines, and the ball went up in the air. I mean, we were at each other's throats. The first word that pops in my head is hate. We hated the Knicks, and they hated the Miami Heat.
Hey, we had Charles Oakley in that time, and we came on in the playoffs down there, and P.J. Brown was still working on his post game. And Oakley took a ball from the ball rack and fired it full court and tried to hit him and then said, get the fuck off the court. And so, yeah, there was deep-seated, like, animosity.
These really were like two brother teams. They were almost kind of born from the same place.
It was pure theater. It was great competition.
I kind of felt like the basketball world stopped and everybody was watching us.
On occasion, the basketball gods get their wish, and we get something intriguing like the Knicks versus the Heat, a rivalry fueled by familiarity and contempt. And if everything goes according to plan, oh, what a lovely war.
In 4 straight seasons between 1997 and 2000, the Heat and the Knicks clashed in the playoffs. All 4 series came down to a final winner-take-all game, a first in NBA history.
I think it was unique in the fact that they were never playing to get into the finals. They were always playing sort of this undercard version as you were going through the playoffs.
The very first time we played in the playoffs, there was a Donnybrook. There was a melee, and then all of a sudden, there's this Charlie Ward trying to tackle P.J. Brown out of bounds.
P.J. Brown throws Charlie Ward. Watch out. This one's going to get really ugly.
And the next thing you know, they lose the 7th game.
There were obviously fights.
Hardaway, no. Rebound, New York. And fists are flying at the other end. Larry Johnson is one of them. Here we go.
The big fight, you know, with myself and Larry Johnson. So when you think about that, you know, if I did not make that decision to go after him, would it have been a different series? Would we have been in the finals? Probably so. We would have won that series.
Out of nowhere, Jeff Van Gundy coming onto the court. You know, his suit's flying, what's left of his hair is flying. He's like on the floor. It's like, and he looks like this little terrier like attacking the postman, you know? And nobody can believe what they're seeing.
Look at JBG on your leg. Look like a little rag doll. It's funny because after we beaten y'all in this round, we went to Indiana.
First of all, y'all would not have won this game if this wouldn't have happened.
Well, you know.
Y'all wouldn't have won the series if this wouldn't have happened, number one.
You know, he went to grab you up top, and you're so big and strong that you just, you know, cast him aside, and he just kept sliding and sliding. And the only thing he could hold on to was your leg.
No doubt. He was holding on for dear life. Look at his hair.
Truly, I have no recollection of why I went there, that I went there. I understand why criminals plead temporary insanity. The players had a good laugh at my expense. So, yeah, interesting.
Despite suspensions, ejections, and simmering emotions, the bond between Patrick and Alonzo remained sacred. Still, their camaraderie occasionally made others uncomfortable.
I didn't want my players fraternizing, you know, with the opposition. I couldn't stop players from being friends with guys, you know, but I didn't want, you know, Patrick coming into Miami and taking Zoe out to dinner the night before.
He used to hate when I go out to dinner with him. But I'm like, you know what, man, forget that. He's my friend, he's my brother, I'm going to dinner. But once we step on the court, all that's gone.
It's just our competitive nature and instincts that kind of took over. And it was no different than when it all started back in McDonough Gym.
They clock in and they're at each other, then they clock out and they go to dinner. And that's what these two guys were like for all those years.
Alonzo Mourning will not be playing professional basketball this season. And we are totally convinced that the only thing that should be on his mind and our mind is to get him healthy.
That was a very frightening time in this whole program. I mean, that was something that all of us were afraid. Everybody who loved Alonzo and cared about Alonzo, we were very concerned about him and it wasn't about basketball. You know, we were wondering what impact this would have on his life. Basketball was not a priority.
And everything stops, your world stops, and everything you're talking about stops with the team and with your family and, you know, with everybody. And it goes to one thing, is your compassion and sympathy for this warrior.
You know, I thought he was done. You know, I really did. I thought, you know, and I would hope that he was done. I was like, maybe it's time.
I remember Dr. Appel saying that he probably will never play the game again, but he didn't know who he was dealing with, with Alonzo.
Just that routine physical kind of identified what the problem was early enough and prepare myself for the next step, and that was transplantation.
Well, you know what? Forget playing. My concern was about him living. I told him if, I'll be one of the people who get tested to see if we match, to donate a kidney.
That's who Patrick is. That's who he is as a friend, as a family man.
He is the guy who wanted to give Zoe anything he could if it were going to help Zoe stay alive.
We matched. Ironically, we matched. But because I had high blood pressure, the doctors ruled me out.
With all the candidates that came in, the one candidate that they chose was somebody that I hadn't seen in over 25, 30 years, a relative, second cousin.
Once the surgery had taken place, I remember going to the hospital and he came out in his gown. The gown was to the middle of his thighs, he was so big. And he said to me, I'm gonna be back. He said, I'll be back. I just know I'll be back.
Deep down inside, I felt like that I still wasn't finished.
This is a Miami Heat team that during the regular season, at times even Pat Riley had doubts on whether or not they could win a championship. Dampier blocked by Mourning. Terry gets a screen. Blocked by Mourning. Does it again. But once again, Alonzo Mourning playing big.
Not only did he come back late that year, he ended up winning the world championship. He ended up winning the title.
Patrick, after witnessing me going through the situation that I'd gone through and understanding what it took for me to get back on the court and play again, he was there rooting for me.
Even though I didn't win one, I felt like I was a part of that.
Yeah, well, I told you, I said, you know what I mean? Yeah, we won the world championship, but, I think about all the years of us battling and you pushing me and teaching me, especially when I was at Georgetown, so I told you personally that, I won this for you, so a part of this moment was to celebrate all of what you guys helped contribute to me, so. But I didn't get your ring size. I'll wear it for you.
I try it on every now and then. I get a little jealous, so right. I'm hoping since I'm coaching now that one day I'll be able to.
There you go.
To be able to taste that water.
For sure.
Get it, here it comes to lift me up and set it off on the left, fresh breath and the breath of fresh air that I need to be my best. Set it off on the right, like the night with a bass line tighter than a